Mr. John Hemming, ex-member of the British Parliament, you have been dealing with CPS issues in Great Britain. What is your overall estimation? Are there many cases of children taken without sufficient reason by child protection services and never given back to the biological parents?
Well, there are obviously many thousands of those. Most of them actually affect UK citizens, but some of them affect citizens of other countries as well. One case we helped with was a Slovak case, where the two boys were destined for being adopted, and we working with the Slovak government, managed to get an appeal through, so they were sent back to the Slovak Republic. But it's very clear that the main objective of the child protection system in England and Wales, not so much Scotland and Northern Ireland, is to increase numbers of children adopted from care. And that has influenced it over a number of years, so that more and more younger children, babies, newborn babies, are taken into care. And then of those children that leave the care system aged between 1 and 5, around about 60% plus go to adoption.
Mr. Hemming, there is one case of a Latvian lady whose daughter was taken into custody, if I'm not wrong, 5 years ago. She had a talk on Friday in Tallinn conference with Marius Reikeros. Our leftist media outlet Eesti Päevaleht said that according to Latvian media, the British CPS had strong reasons to take her child because she had problems with alcohol and her child was without proper care and led in her excrements. After many warnings, she didn't behave well, so they were forced to take her child. You know quite a bit of her case. Are these allegations made by Eesti Päevaleht true or not, according to your knowledge?
On that basis, any child that has a nappy and who fills the nappy at any stage lives in excrement and should be taken into care and adopted. I think you do have to look at the details of what happens in a case to make any judgments. And obviously, in her case, she'd arranged for a babysitter to look after her daughter. Remember, she has two daughters anyway, and one of them was out at college at the time, being 16. She'd arranged for a babysitter to look after her daughter, and she made the mistake of going out before the babysitter arrived, expecting the babysitter to arrive at any moment. And she shouldn't have done that. But it wasn't as if she was being irresponsible. And as I said, almost all children use nappies at some stage. And obviously, for a while, the nappy is full of excrement. So if you're going to use wearing a nappy as a good reason to get a child adopted, then that's a lot of children.
According to you, so in her case, the taking away her daughter was absolutely wrong.
It was very clear it was driven by a change in the adoption target for the London Borough of Merton, because they changed their adoption target to increase the number of children they wanted adopted from care as a result of central government pressure. And following that, they changed their decision as to what they intended to do in respect of her daughter. The lady concerned was working as a journalist at the time in London as an editor of a newspaper or a website. And I think what the media have been saying about her in Estonia is partly untrue and partly an exaggeration.
If there are problems with CPS, how to react, what to do, according to you?
Well, it depends on the circumstances, because there are lots of different issues. Obviously, there are people in England who face the removal of their children at birth because of a history. And there have been, I think, the record that we're aware of is a mother who has had 17 children taken from her just having given birth. And what I find is if people emigrate very often, they find there isn't a problem. So many people from England have actually gone to Ireland or to France or Spain or in fact Czech Republic to keep their children. And that can be a sensible thing, but it depends on your linguistic abilities, because obviously if you're going to emigrate, you've got to speak the foreign language. In Ireland, that's not so difficult. And also you've got to get a job.
Absolutely. what are the most outrageous cases? You mentioned this 17 children mother, but what are the others?
Well, there are lots of things. That's a case in, obviously, there are quite a few mothers have like 10 children, 11 children taken. They tend to find that certain mothers are, you know, ones where they find it easy to win the legal case to remove their children. Mothers who are victims of domestic violence are often what's called re-victimized by having their children taken off them and put up for adoption. So that's quite common. There was a report done by the Council of Europe called the Borsova Report, which looked at what sort of activities going on. And that did include the re-victimization of mothers who are victims of domestic violence. And you can see that in the report, the words are there.
Are there any changes in British CPS system right now?
Not really. There are movements. Some family lawyers who disagreed with me have recognised my comments about the adoption targets are entirely accurate, and that local authorities are very often going out to get children so they can hit their adoption targets. So the big problem, of course, is when it gets into court, the evidence is not independent. So a social worker, I know of one case of a social worker in Leicester City Council who lost her job because she wanted to keep a family together. And she was therefore fired from that local authority. And when the practitioners are under pressure not to keep families together, but to actually get children adopted, inevitably it gives, and because they're not allowed, the families are not allowed independent evidence, they have to live with the opinion of the local authority.
Thank you, Mr. John Hemming. I'm very glad to have spoken you.